Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my double Game Week 28 transfer plans and just a little teaser. There is a good chance of at least a -4, potentially even a -8 hit for me this week. If you do enjoy today's video and you get any use out of it, please smash that like button. And if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So very briefly, before we take a look at my team for Game Week 28 and my current transfer plans, a very brief review of Game Week 27. And I went into Game Week 27 expecting a big red arrow, and it looks like that won't be the case. I'm currently on a small green arrow, about 3 or 4 points above my safety score, which is the score that I need to achieve for a green arrow. Obviously, the Arsenal game has not happened because I'm recording this on Sunday evening, and therefore, if Saka does very well, because so many people have captained him, it actually hurts my rank, or if Arsenal keep a clean sheet, again, because, yes, I have Gabriel, but so many people have double Arsenal defense. If those two things happen, then it could potentially be a red arrow for me, but I'm not expecting it to be a massive red arrow. So I will take that. I would have definitely taken a small red arrow going into the game week because my team was in a position where I had lots of flagged players, and because I wanted certain players in game week 29, I wasn't able to bring in other players that I might want to target in the short term. And that is one of the disadvantages that I currently have, that I don't really want to free hit in 29. So I can't be quite as aggressive with my transfers in the immediate weeks because I've obviously got game week 29 in the back of my mind. So again, if you're free hitting, that is definitely an advantage of that. But it didn't go too badly for me. The goalkeeper situation was incredibly interesting, right? Areola's 13 points from my bench hurts a lot. And it hurts even more because he didn't even keep a clean sheet. And I actually predicted it. I thought, do you know what? Areola's got a chance for a clean sheet, but I expect him to concede. But I think Kelleher's got a greater chance for a clean sheet. And that is the way it happened. But it just so happened that Areola also made 9 saves and saved a penalty for a massive 13-pointer. So well done if you did play Areola. It feels like even when I get goalkeeper points, which I'm not complaining about, it's nice to get the points from Kelleher. Even when I get the goalkeeper points, I don't actually pick my goalkeepers in the right way. So goalkeepers just continue to be an absolute mystery to me in FPL, and I just never get the right way. And even when I don't rotate goalkeepers, I still don't seem to get the FPL points. But Kelleher's 9-pointer softened the blow slightly. If Kelleher had conceded and got 2 points and Areola got 13, that would have hurt a hell of a lot more. So nice to get the clean sheet from the Liverpool goalkeeper. And there's a good chance I'll actually be playing Kelleher potentially in game week 30 as well, because Alisson might not be back then. For the defence, I knew it was going to be bad, right? I was starting Ake against United, who, to be honest, potentially could have had a clean sheet, but also Charlie Taylor, and you never really want to start Charlie Taylor. But the way the games went, Manchester United arguably didn't particularly deserve to score, and if they did, they still could have maybe not on another day, right? They didn't create a hell of a lot of chances in that game. So Ake on another day walks away with a clean sheet. And Charlie Taylor, I actually watched the Bournemouth-Burnley game. He was so attacking. He created one big chance. He had 3 key passes, and he had 0.34 expected assists. So I'm not saying I'm unlucky to get nothing from Taylor, but again, very, very attacking performance. And actually, Burnley dominated Bournemouth. And moving on to that game, Solanke's actually currently my only attacker to blank. And I know a lot of people benched him because they weren't sure about his fitness levels, but he played 88 minutes. And I think if I'd have told you Solanke's going to play 88 minutes, not only would everyone have had and started Solanke, but there would have been some captaincy discussions. It was only because of that injury that a lot of people obviously had him benched or decided not to buy him. And again, he was the only attacker to blank, and maybe he is still struggling with that injury to the point where it is going to hinder his performances. And I suppose we'll discuss that when we talk about the idea of triple captaincy for some people next week, because that will be quite popular. And if he is carrying an injury that's going to prevent him from performing at that high level, then maybe he's not the best triple captain. Maybe he's not even the best captaincy shout, which we'll have to discuss throughout the week. But the rest of my attackers did deliver. Haaland got 6, which is another real disappointment based on the amount of bloody chances that man got. He had over 1.5 XG once again, and only getting 6 points wasn't great. He left it very, very late. Phil Foden is just absolutely unbelievable. And I can't wait to show you the next section of the video because I may well be selling Phil Foden, and I cannot wait to see what the comments are telling me that it's absolutely idiotic, and it may well be, but you'll see why I'm planning that potentially in a second. But Phil Foden, it genuinely, and I say this as a Manchester United fan, which hurts, one of, if not my favourite players that does not play for Manchester United. I love watching him. He's silky smooth. Eye test data, doesn't matter. Phil Foden is that guy, and he's performing to such a high level this season. He's got to be up there along with Ollie Watkins as a potential player of the year candidate. And Ollie Watkins has just been unbelievable as well. That is now over 30 attacking returns in FPL this year. it's just monstrous. And again, Watkins is a player maybe in my wildcard in game week 31. I might not have him because he might not have the double. Well, he won't have a double game week this season. And so it is very tricky to hold on to him, but he's just performing to such a ridiculously high level. Every week I say I can't captain Foden and I can't captain Watkins because they're not on set pieces and they're not on penalties. And I just look like an idiot every week because it doesn't matter if they're not on set pieces and they're not on penalties because they are just getting open play attacking returns. So Watkins and Foden once again delivering double digits for me. Son getting 1 goal, slightly underwhelming. We hoped for a little bit more. And again, he left that very late, but still a goal is very good. And considering I sold Hwang for Son, it was a transfer that worked out very well for my team because that was for free. So I gained 5 points. In terms of if I'd have played someone else that got 2 points. And then Palmer getting me 5 points as well. Again, slightly underwhelming with the fact that Brentford had pretty much their entire defence injured. I expected a lot more from Chelsea, but maybe that's where I went wrong, expecting anything from Chelsea because they are so unpredictable. And for the most part, they are quite underwhelming. So that is the way that Game Week 27 went for me. I'm currently on 66 points, obviously with that Arsenal versus Sheffield United fixture yet to happen on Monday. Given how that goes, it'll either be a small green or a small red arrow. And like I said, I will absolutely take that. Let's now move on to Game Week 28, where hopefully we'll cement that top 100k position and then not leave the top 100k ever again. So guys, this is the way that the team is currently looking for Game Week 28. No, it's not looking particularly perfect, but as you can see above my head, the plan is still to stick to the original plan, which is wildcard 31, free hit 34, and bench boost 37. I don't think this is stubbornness, and I'm aware that if I were to wildcard this week, I would gain a lot of extra fixtures, and I'd be a lot better set up for 29. And if I free hit for 29, again, I'm aware that I could be a little bit more aggressive with my transfers and bring in Bournemouth players and also target 30 and beyond. I just think that you're never going to have a perfect team for every week and for every spell of the season. If you wildcard now, you will struggle a bit more later on. If you free hit in 29, assuming the fixtures that we expect to happen in 34 happen, you might struggle a bit more in 34. So it really does depend which weeks you want to target and which weeks you want to save your chips for. Again, a perfectly fine strategy would have been wildcard 27, bench boost 28, free hit 29, and just use your chips across these 3 weeks. You might be 70 or 80 points up on me, and therefore even the points that I make up later in the season, it would kind of equal itself out. So I think sometimes we overcomplicate it in FPL. There will be points when your team struggles and you have to take a few hits, and there will be points when you play your chips and therefore you gain the points. And for me, I'm just looking at it like, I think I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit, sort of 27, 28, 29, by not playing a chip, having to take a few hits, but then really attacking 30, 31 and beyond. So that is the current plan at the moment. And therefore, because that is the plan, I'm, of course, definitely not selling any player that has a fixture in 29. And I pretty much now, with my 2 free transfers and hits, have to bring in players that also have a fixture in 29. So I am almost dead-ending, we say, into 29, trying to get together the best team I can with a reasonable number of hits, and then either wildcarding in 30 or 31. The reason I'm looking at 31 at the moment is for a lot of teams that look okay in 29, they've also got okay fixtures in 30. For example, triple Spurs, then have Luton. So a lot of the players that you might own in 29 don't have an awful fixture in 30. And also Man City and Arsenal play against each other in 30. And I think there is a good chance on a wildcard you'd want 3 Arsenal, 3 City. So it almost allows you to just avoid that fixture and then wildcard them in when their bit better fixtures start in 31. The other reason I also like the idea of a wildcard in 31 is I think salary is going to be incredibly important for our teams for the back end of the season. And I think for a lot of people that don't wildcard around 31 and either wildcarded earlier or choose to wildcard later, I think it will be difficult to fit Son, Salah and Haaland in along with Saka, which I think will be an incredibly popular sort of structure to the team. So with all of those things being said, let's discuss the team itself. No, not perfect on paper, the fixtures. And yes, I currently only have 1 double game week player, which is Solanke, and everyone's going to own and captain Solanke, assuming that he is fit after his performance in game week 27, which we don't know. He obviously came off a few minutes early, and we know he's been struggling with this reoccurring injury. But let's say that Solanke's fine, because I don't yet know anything about that. I'm obviously wanting to bring in an ideal world, double game week players. That's fairly obvious. We've got a double game week coming up, and both Luton and Bournemouth's double game week is really, really good. So double game week players are going to be the target. I'm not saying that it will only be double game week players and I can't bring in another player because there are other players with good fixtures as well. But if double game weeks are the target, and I'm also trying to bring in players that have a fixture in 29 as well, it really is Luton players that I have to bring in. And I know we've spoke about this in the past. People really can't get on board with it because why would I want to bring in Luton players? Doesn't matter what their fixtures are. They don't keep clean sheets. They don't score that many goals. There are just better players with single fixtures. And you may well be right. But if I can gain lots of extra fixtures, I just back players that have okay underlying data with good fixtures and extra fixtures to outscore players with poor fixtures and less fixtures. So if I use something like Ake as an example, if I brought in Doughty for Ake, Ake's got Liverpool and then blank. So across the next 2 weeks, he's got one fixture and it's bad. If I bring in Doughty, he's got Palace, Bournemouth and then Forest. I'm getting 3 fixtures for 1 fixture, and those 3 fixtures are better. Now, I don't think many people would say Ake to Doughty is a bad move, but then you can apply that same thing to someone like an Erling Haaland. This is going to go terribly. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. I would genuinely love to know, but try and explain why. But Haaland is fantastic. If he'd have scored all of the chances he's had recently, maybe I wouldn't even be talking about this, but I'm looking at it and thinking Haaland has Liverpool blank. Morris has Crystal Palace, Bournemouth and Forest. He is also on penalties and his underlying data isn't awful. Do I back 3 fixtures against 1 for Morris to outscore Haaland, even for a -4? I kind of do, or at least I'm willing to take that risk. The other reason that I think it's less scary selling someone like an Erling Haaland at the moment is because in Game Week 28, very few people will captain Haaland. Unless Solanke's injured, but even then I think they'll captain another double Game Week player, or someone like a Saka. I just can't see that many people captaining Haaland in 28. So it's not going to damage me as much, even if he does go absolutely crazy. But just through appearance points alone, Morris will make up the hit and then also gain a little bit. So I kind of feel like it's maybe worth the gamble selling some City players, for example, and bringing in Luton players. And Haaland to Morris for a hit sounds like it has the potential to go horribly wrong. And then I know a lot of people will say, but you're wildcarding in 31. But then in Game Week 30, Haaland's got Arsenal. So if you look at it in its entirety, it's Liverpool blank Arsenal. And then for Morris, it would be Palace, Bournemouth, Forest, Spurs. I much prefer those 4 fixtures over Haaland's 2. So I'm not saying I'm definitely selling Haaland, by the way, but I sold Haaland earlier in the season. So you know it's not clickbait. I'm not doing it for views. I do it if I think there is an opportunity to sell a highly owned player for another player for the potential benefit of really jumping in rank. I like taking risks in FPL. I think it makes the game exciting. So there's the possibility there to be selling my City assets, but it doesn't have to be the City assets that are sold, and it doesn't have to be Luton players that are coming in. Again, if I've got Game Week 29 in mind, Villa midfielders could do fairly well, but I look at it this week and think Spurs isn't the best fixture to go out and buy one for. The other assets that could do very well are West Ham, and I think that's slightly more tempting this week because as you can see with Areola, they've got Burnley at home. So I'm looking at something like, is Foden to Bowen potentially a move that I might want to make? Yes, it could be. Because this week, obviously, the fixture's better. They then have an extra fixture in Game Week 29 as well. So if I'm looking across the next 2 weeks, Bowen's got Burnley and then Villa. Foden's just got Liverpool. So I do like the idea of even going for a single Game Week player such as Bowen. I think a lot of people will probably just say, why don't you just sell Richarlison? Why would you sell Foden? I could potentially just sell Richarlison. There was an interview that Richarlison did, I think it was for ESPN Brazil, where he said actually there's a chance that he's going to be available for Villa. I don't think he'll be available for Villa, but he made it sound in the interview like he's not that far off. Some people are suggesting that's because it was for ESPN Brazil and he wants to go away with Brazil for the international break and he's trying to make it sound like he's healthier than he is, which may well be the case. But either way, I think even if there's a 1% chance he's available for Game Week 29, I would probably just hold on to him for one more week and just assess just in case, because it would be one less hit that I need to take to get a player in 29, and not many people would have him. Even on a free hit, people probably wouldn't risk it, and they'd just go Son or Maddison, so it could be a potential advantage. But yes, if Richarlison's definitely ruled out, he's not seen in training at all, maybe I would sell Richarlison ahead of Foden and just have Foden on the bench. And I know a lot of people are going to hate it because Foden's just come off the back of a hat-trick recently and then a brace, and he does look genuinely incredible at the moment, but it doesn't matter because he's got Liverpool, a blank, and then Arsenal, and then I would own him from Game Week 31 anyway. Again, look above me, I'm wildcarding in 31, so I can bring Foden back into my team. So there's all these things going around my head at the moment. Obviously, I don't need to sell my double Arsenal. I don't need to sell my Villa players because they play in 29. I'm not going to sell Taylor, even though he's not fantastic, because again, 29. Porro, if he's available, may well go into the starting 11 for me. And if Porro's ruled out, that might change my plans slightly. But at the moment, it looks like there's a good chance he's back in training this week, which would be incredibly helpful for me. And then, yeah, we'll wait for news in and around Richarlison. The only other players that I might potentially want to bring into my team, because obviously they have a double game week as well, is Bournemouth players. And you would argue that Bournemouth arguably have the best possible double you could ever hope for, is Sheffield United at home and Luton at home. But Bournemouth have not been particularly good recently. Before the game today that I'm recording this on Sunday, before the game against Burnley, they were actually, I think, on a 7-game run without a win in the Premier League. So they have not been particularly good. And they weren't particularly convincing against Burnley either. So do I want another attacker? Maybe like a Tavernier could be an okay shout, or a Scott, or a Semenyo, but I'm not sure I really want to go there. And then when I look at the defence, yeah, I wouldn't mind the defender. But again, am I expecting 2 clean sheets? There's the possibility, definitely. The fixtures are there. But I'm not sure about a hit for a Bournemouth defender. And then again, especially given that they don't play in 29. So it's just another issue that I'm going to have in 29. So I don't think for me there are any outfield players that I could buy from Bournemouth, which basically leaves Neto. And I definitely could do Kelleher to Neto and then start Neto instead of Areola, because I would still then have Areola for blank game week 29. So if I am to bring in another Bournemouth player, it is almost definitely going to be Neto. I just look at it and think Areola's got Burnley at home. Areola plus 4 points versus Neto with Sheffield United and Luton. I would still back Neto, but am I confident enough? Maybe not. So that's the way I'm currently looking at it right now. That's a bit of a rambly rant about my team players, general direction that I'm moving. Let's now move into a more structured section where I show you 4 possible transfer plans that I'm looking at the moment. There's 3 -4s and 1 -8, and I would love to know in the comments which of them you like the most. So moving on to my transfer possibilities for Game Week 28. As I've said now, it is probably going to be Man City players. So that's not a definite, by the way, but it's most likely simply because it's Liverpool blank Arsenal. And as I said, I'm wildcarding in 31 anyway. So I'm selling them for 2 of the most difficult fixtures in the league and a blank. And I would just bring 3 of them back in on my wildcard. So I'm not too stressed about dropping them. If you've already used your wildcard or you're wildcarding in like 35, I wouldn't advise selling all of your City players. I think that's probably a bad idea. But it's going to be a little bit easier for me. So I think I am going to take a hit this week. Not definitely, but I just think it's there because I'm going to have to take a hit in 29 anyway. Why not make the hit bigger in 28 rather than making it bigger in 29, given that I also get extra fixtures in 28? Does that make sense? So why would I bring in more players in 29 when I've got less fixtures to target, rather than just bringing in Luton assets this week that also have a double and then also have a fixture? So I just feel like it makes more sense to front load the hit into Game Week 28. So as you can see, currently all 4 of my options have Ake to Doughty. I think the reason I like that is, I mean, not only is Doughty more attacking, he's got better fixtures, and he's got 3 fixtures. I don't think there's much possibility, famous last words, for this to go wrong. So I think my 1 free transfer this week, unless there are issues outside of that and I choose to do something else, will just be Ake to Doughty. So you can largely ignore that move, because the remainder of the moves is where it differs, right? Because that one will probably be done regardless. It then basically comes down to, do I want to sell Foden? Do I want to sell Haaland? Or do I want to sell both? Or do I want to do something else altogether and just hold on to Foden and Haaland because I think they'll score lots of goals against Liverpool, let's say. So option 1 is kind of a straightforward -4 with Ake to Doughty and then Foden to either Bowen or Barkley. I've put Bowen there just to mix it up a bit and just to show you it doesn't have to be Barkley. It doesn't have to be a Luton midfielder, because I don't think Barkley's a particularly great option. But with 3 fixtures, I back him. But Bowen's got 2 fixtures, Burnley and Villa, and I would expect him to do quite well against Burnley. Burnley looked a lot better against Bournemouth, by the way, but I think West Ham will have enough to score a few goals against them. So I quite like the idea of bringing in Bowen this week. But is Bowen 4 points better than Foden this week? Probably, but it definitely feels worse taking a hit for a player with only 1 fixture, especially taking out someone like Foden. So I suppose option 1 could also be Ake to Doughty and then Foden to Barkley, but that's option 1. Option 2 is still the Ake to Doughty move, but I actually do Kelleher to Neto. So I don't sell Foden and Haaland. Again, I can keep them a little bit longer. And I don't bring in any additional Luton assets. I just go for the 1 Luton asset, which is Doughty, because he's probably the best one. And I don't get caught up in the Luton double game week hype. But as I said, this is only giving me 1 extra fixture for 29. Kelleher to Neto doesn't help me, but Ake to Doughty does. That means then going into 29, I've got less players. So I'm going to have to take a bigger hit in 29. So whilst it gives me an extra double game week player and it gives me another Bournemouth player, which is really nice, it's not helping me with my overall strategy as much. And therefore, I'm less keen on this one. And again, as I said, Areola's got Burnley at home anyway. So options 2 is probably my least favourite option of the 4, just because it's helping me the least. Option 3 is kind of similar to option 1. It's just basically Ake to Doughty again, but then Haaland to Morris rather than the Foden to Barkley move. So in this case, I'm accepting that Foden is an incredible run of form. I'm not that sure that any of the midfielders I bring would outscore Foden. And whereas Morris is on penalties, good data, and I know Haaland's fantastic, but maybe Morris instead of Haaland is a slightly better shout than a Bowen or Barkley instead of Foden. So it's basically the same as option 1, but I'm just removing Haaland rather than Foden. Again, I would bring these players back in on my wildcard in 31. So that's what option 3 is. And then finally, just to finish with option 4, is basically all of them, right? It's Ake to Doughty, Foden to Barkley, and Haaland to Morris for a -8 transfer to sell 3 Man City assets, including Foden and Haaland, for 3 Luton. Now, you can comment down below, Ross, you've lost your mind, because I don't mind. But let me try and sell it to you if I've not already sold it to you. For me and my strategy, I am getting, if I sell Ake, Foden and Haaland, I'm going from 3 fixtures in 2 game weeks to 9 fixtures in 3 game weeks. Because each of my Luton assets have 3 fixtures, each of my City assets have 1. And then again, in 30, I know my triple Luton have Tottenham, but I'd actually rather play against Tottenham than having City players against Arsenal. And I don't have to play all 3 of my Luton assets. I can bench Barkley and Doughty and just start Morris. And I can even then sell Morris to someone else in 30 for a 1-week punt. So it just feels like I'm getting, again, as I've put here, I wanted to highlight it, 6 extra fixtures in 2 weeks. Therefore, just through appearance points alone, assuming they each get 2 appearance points, I'm gaining 12 points. So you see that -8, it's offset plus 4 additional points just through appearance points, plus the opportunity, obviously, in those 3 games to get attacking returns. I know it sounds like I'm justifying myself here because I'd like to, because I want to know what you think. You can still let me know down below. I still think you're bonkers, which is absolutely fine, but I'm kind of tempted to do it. It's one of the advantages, I suppose, of free hitting in 29 is, and again, not free hitting in 29 and wildcarding in 31. I can sell my City assets and bring in more doublers because I can always just buy my City assets back. So honestly, hand on heart, I'm leaning towards option 4 at the moment. The big -8, because it gives me 3 extra players in 29. So again, I have to take less of a hit in 29 to field a good team. I might not even need to take a hit in 29. I think I can rock either 9 or 10 players, I believe, for free if I make those 3 moves, depending upon other injuries. So yes, it's a -8 this week, but it's less next week. It gives me the extra fixtures. I've explained all of it. I think that's definitely tempting. I would be extremely surprised if one of my moves isn't Ake to Doughty this week, and it's just about what I want to do outside of that. This is one of those weeks where I'd love you to let me know down below. What do you think? Do you like any of these? Do you like something else? Would you be looking to free hit a wildcard in my position? Do you think I'm along the right lines? Please let me know down below if there's a transfer possibility that I've not considered, because I'd be very tempted to see it as well. But I think I might go all in on the doubles, all in on the blank, and then if it goes horribly, I'll wildcard out of it, and then at least I've still got my wildcard free hit and bench boost for the back end of the season. So guys, I thought I'd just end the video by jumping over to Fantasy Football Hub and looking at what those transfers make my team look like for 28, 29 and 30, with the idea again of wildcarding in 31. I do just want to say I'm not definitely locked into wildcard in 31. It could potentially be wildcard 30, but I'd be very surprised if it's not in those 2 weeks. But let's say I pick up a couple of injuries in 28 and 29, and my team going into 30 just looks a bit of a mess. And I just think, do you know what? I'm just going to go 1 week early in 30. I could well do that. So I'm not locked into 31, but again, I'd be very surprised if it's not in one of the following game weeks after the blank, just because I'm sort of just dead-ending my team into that. So I don't think I'll be able to save the wildcard much beyond that. So what I thought I would do is, I think I'm going to just show you what the team would look like if I take the -8, because that's the way I'm leaning. But again, this isn't for clickbait, it's not for views. That's the way I'm leaning now. But I do change my mind quite a lot in FPL. So it might be that I go for a -4 instead. I've also just considered a -8. Which I should have probably said in the previous section, which is option 4, plus also doing Kelleher to Neto. So I could actually do a -12, but I don't know, that seems a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Taking a -12 to remove three City players and 1 Liverpool player. So Ake to Doughty is the obvious move, right? As you can see, Fantasy Football Hub recommend it. That's the one I'm almost definitely going to make. Let's say that I also then do Foden to Barkley, which I never thought I would say, for a -4. And then let's say I do Haaland to Morris for a -8. Which again is something I never thought I would say and still doesn't make sense to me. But let me make those transfers, optimize the team. This is the way that the team should currently look according to Fantasy Football. They actually have me starting Taylor. I wouldn't start Taylor. It would be either Powell or Porro. And I would then have triple Luton and I would have Solanke. I would captain Solanke unless, as you can see here, his minutes are predicted to be a little bit lower at the moment. If there is any doubts around Solanke, I'd captain Morris. I'm all in on the doubles, as I always am. I would then be left with 15.5 million in the bank, which is just bonkers to me. But then going into Game Week 29, if I just click Optimize again, By the way, if you want to use Fantasy Football Hub, there is a link down below in the description. You get 30% off and a 7-day free trial. So this is the way the team would be looking. Let's assume that Powell and Porro and everyone like that, Taylor, are all fine. I don't have any other injuries. But let's go off the basis that Richarlison is injured, because that looks more likely than not. I would have 9 players without having to make a transfer, and therefore I could field 10 for free, or I could field 11 for a -4. I think I would go for the -4. I do. Even though I've just taken a -8, because I didn't take a hit in 27, and I feel like I sort of saved it then. I'm like, do you know what? I've banked that hit for later. Not that that means anything, right? That's a terrible way of looking at it, but I've not taken a lot of hits recently in the sort of to make me feel better about potentially having to take hits in 28 and 29. But yes, I may well also take a -4, but I don't have to, right? I could just do Solanke to Tony and just field 10. But I also just feel like I've got Bowen and or Maddison just sat there. Easy peasy transfer for Richarlison. And I think given the fixture in game week 30 being Luton at home for Spurs, I think Maddison in for Richarlison makes a lot of sense. The only other option I have considered is, rather than doing Maddison, Elanga. I actually think Elanga has been very good recently. And as you can see, he's got Luton in 29 and then Palace at home in 30. So if I'm not fully convinced by Spurs, and/or I just want to get a bit spicy with it, I think he'll probably be quite popular on free hit as well. Elanga could come in as well. Do you know what? Let's say we go Elanga. Let me make those transfers. So what we're looking at here, and again, I know lots of hits, but I'm getting to save chips, and I'm okay with it, is a -8 in game week 28 for Doughty, Barkley, and Morris in for my 3 City. I think I've lost my marbles. And then in game week 29, Elanga and Tony in for Richarlison and Solanke, to give me 11 players in 29. So going into game week 30, again, if I optimize the team, this is the way the team looks right now, and this is why I'm less keen on wildcard 30. Kelleher's got a good fixture. We're not expecting Alisson to be back. Pedro Porro against Luton, Pau Torres against Wolves are fine. Yes, I've got Gabriel against City, but everyone's going to have an Arsenal defender that week. I've also got the optional, I could potentially either play Doughty, not really Taylor, but Doughty, or I could make a defensive transfer. Moving on to the midfield, I'd have Son, Palmer and Elanga, all with 3 brilliant home fixtures against Luton, Burnley and Crystal Palace, and Saka against City. Saka's just brilliant. And then up front, I've got Tony, Watkins and Morris. 2 penalty takers, plus Watkins, who's absolutely brilliant. And obviously, Tony's playing at home against Manchester United, so he's not an issue. So what I'm probably looking at is I'd have 1 transfer, obviously, to use because I'd be wildcarding in 31. I'd either just take out one of my defenders and then bench Gabriel, or I'd just take out Morris. And something like, it could literally be anything, by the way, but Morris to Jackson, or what I'd potentially be looking at is Awoniyi. This is just a good team again in game week 30. I don't need to wildcard this week, assuming again no issues outside of that. And then in 31, again, the team actually doesn't look awful, but this is the week where I'd want Salah back. I'd probably want another Liverpool. I'd want to make sure I have 3 Arsenal for Luton at home, and I'd also probably want to make sure I have 2 to 3 Chelsea players for future fixtures as well. And I'd want to start to load up on Brent. Anyway, we're not going to get into all of the teams that I'd want to load up on. I also, obviously, I don't know if I said this, but I definitely would want 3 City as well, because I've now sold all of my City assets. So 31 kind of has to be the week if I don't do it in 30. But that's currently what I'm leaning to at the moment. I'll leave it there because I feel like there was a lot of rambling and a lot of me saying that I'm going to sell City assets for Luton. Let me know down below on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you think I've lost my mind? I don't think I have. I think there's a little bit of a method. Is it method to the madness? I think there is a little bit this week, but also I need to make sure that I'm not just overthinking it and just getting carried away. I'd love your feedback down below in the comments. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 28 transfer plans video. Another double game week for us, albeit a small one. If you did enjoy today's video, please smash that like button. Let's aim for 2,500 likes on today's video. And if you're not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. We're very close to 115,000 subscribers, and that would be a pretty cool number to hit. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, cheers. Bye-bye.